For the first time in 8 years, the Miami Dolphins quietly made the playoffs, and they definitely had a very good season under first-year's head coach in Adam Gase, especially when at the end of the season they lost their starting quarterback, but they brought in Matt Moore as a backup, and he actually ended up doing pretty well. And I remember Matt Moore doing pretty well in 2011, but I kind of forgot about him, and it was definitely a very good season for the Miami Dolphins. And when I look at this, a lot of people are asking whether they can compete for the Patriots. Now, how I am going to define compete, whether they can come in second and make another playoff berth. I think that's a good one, or maybe split a series with them in 2016, whether they can get a home win at Sun Life Stadium. Now, when I look at this, I don't really think the Miami Dolphins have a chance to win the AFC East. I don't think anyone does. Not even Dolphins fans are looking at the AFC East thinking to themselves that we're going to win it this year. But I just look at it and think to myself, they're still good enough to make the playoffs. And you could make the playoffs 2 years in a row would be pretty good. And I'm a big Adam Gase guy. I was big on him last year. And when I look at Adam Gase, when he was with Jay Cutler, I thought Jay Cutler looked as if he was an average quarterback in 2015, and this is what made me really look at him, because not only did he work with Peyton Manning, and a lot of people thought to themselves, well, he had Peyton Manning to work with, of course he's going to do well, but he also worked with Jay Cutler and made Jay Cutler look pretty decent. So when I look at that, I feel Adam Gase is definitely one of the better coaches in the league. He might be a top 10 head coach in this league. So when I look at the Dolphins, they definitely have coaching as their strong suit. Now, when it comes to their chances in the playoffs, what's their chance? I think they're quite possible they could go 11-5, because I still think the Patriots are going to lose a game here and there. Just realistically, predicted them to go undefeated to me just kind of seems bonkers. I know they have a great roster and all that, and I understand that. And I'm not saying New England can't go undefeated. They absolutely can. It's just I usually predict teams not to go undefeated, and that's just a rule of thumb that I'm just going to stick to. And 99.9% of the time, I'm going to be right about that, and that's the formula I'm going to stick with, because there's only been one undefeated team since the Super Bowl era. So that's how I look at it. So when it comes to that, if the Patriots do go undefeated, maybe the Dolphins could go 12-4. That's what I'm saying, because if the Patriots win more games, I think the Dolphins can win more games, and I think that's possible. Now, when I look at the Dolphins, they acquired Julius Thomas, and Julius Thomas was a guy who definitely starred on the Denver Broncos, and maybe a lot of people are thinking that, the only reason why he was good because he had Peyton Manning and all that. He had that guy. But when you look at it, Julius Thomas, when he was in Jacksonville, and obviously he had some down seasons with the Jacksonville Jaguars, but at the same time, he was running a different offense. Now, the Jacksonville Jaguars running more West Coast style of offense, and when you see Julius Thomas out there, he runs this drag route, this little rug route. If you don't know what I am, it's like this 2-yard little short route where you run horizontally. So you run 2 yards kind of diagonally, then you cut in like a little bit. So that's kind of the difference there. Versus in a vertical offense, you can run more seam routes, more streak routes, and that's something that Julius Thomas is better at. And he's going to be running a lot more of that with the Miami Dolphins, because the Miami Dolphins play more of a vertical game, what I see from them. And that's what Adam Gase does well. And I think if you put Julius Thomas there, Julius Thomas is going to work pretty well. And I think that's just a factor with the Miami Dolphins last season, the reason why they were a good playoff team last year, or at least a team that just made the playoffs, because they brought in Byron Maxwell, who was down for the Philadelphia Eagles. Obviously, he was overpaid, but a lot of people are thinking to themselves, when it comes to Byron Maxwell, a lot of people thought he couldn't be a number one corner. Well, he ended up being a pretty decent number one corner for the Miami Dolphins, and so I see that the Miami Dolphins kind of had these like bargain bit players, or these players that were considered to be has-beens. I think Kiko Alonso had a pretty good season with the Miami Dolphins in 2016, bringing those guys back there, and they had like those games, and Ryan Tannehill redeemed himself. He actually looked pretty decent in 2016. So there's a lot of redemption there, a lot of redemption factor. And they also now brought in Lawrence Timmons, who's a guy who brings in Hurleys. I think that there's still concern of them stopping the run, in my opinion. I want to see how well they can do that. I know they have good D-line pitch, but their linebacker play, still a little bit of concern, but I think it could manage well with New England in there. It's not really about linebacker play, I would so say. It's whether you can get to Tom Brady and whether you can play man coverage. I guess the only time the linebacker play you're going to care about is coverage linebacker play on a Robert Gronkowski or some sort of thing like that. So when I look at this, I definitely do like what they have, and they do fit the formula of a Super Bowl winning team. Now, don't get carried away. I'm not predicting for them to go to the Super Bowl, but they got the pass rush. I think they're pretty sure they got the safety play. They got a good safety, Rashard Jones, and depending how good Ryan Tannehill becomes in the future, they got something there. So they have something right there, and also you're going to have to look at this. It's definitely going to be interesting. But there are some things that can hold the Dolphins back. You know, I'm talking about how they have pieces to win a Super Bowl, and I'm talking fairly highly about them. There's still some obstacles in their way. Last year, they had a very easy schedule, so they're going to have to step their grade up. This is a season to see what will Adam Gase do, because if you look at last season, they faced the AFC North and the NFC West. Now, the AFC North and NFC West make up two playoff teams right there. Combining them, because you have the Steelers, they made the playoffs, and then you have the Seahawks, they made the playoffs. Obviously, the Dolphins played a close one with Seattle early on in the year. I think week 1 of the year, I believe. But obviously, Seattle wasn't playing their best, so you can't really put them there. And when it comes to the Steelers, all that, they did very well. Obviously, I think one thing the Dolphins surprisingly do well, they do very well against the Steelers when it doesn't matter. I think they like to split a lot of games against the Dolphins because, I don't know, I just think Mike Tomlin isn't that great of a coach. There's talent there, but not really that great. And for some reason, the AFC East just does well against Pittsburgh. There's some sort of thing right there. The Jets also will beat the Pittsburgh Steelers when it doesn't matter. They'll beat them in some sort of crap regular season game, but they will lose to them in the playoffs or lose it to a game where it's like do or die for them. Now, when it comes to their strength of schedule, now the difference this year is you're facing the AFC West, which makes up about 3 or 4 playoff teams. I think all 4 teams. It's probably the one division that has all 4 teams that could potentially make the playoffs. And then you have the NFC South, which is the exact same thing. They all could potentially make the playoffs. Then I think they're going to be facing the Ravens later on. That's another team that could potentially make the playoffs. And then I believe they're going to face the Titans, which is another team that could potentially make the playoffs. So they're facing a lot of good playoff teams right here. So this is a season to see if the Miami Dolphins are a real team that could have a little bit, can make the playoffs multiple years in a row. Because you're facing a lot of good teams this year, I would say. Now, when it comes to strength of schedule, this could all change. There's some teams that could just absolutely suck. For instance, the Kansas City Chiefs. Let's just say they have a 6-10 season. Obviously, beating them wouldn't really matter that much. So that's something that could play a factor. I think a good example of that would be like the New England Patriots. I felt as if when the Patriots beat the Arizona Cardinals in Week 1 of 2016, and they did it with their backup quarterback, I really look at it with number 1, wow, it's a really good backup quarterback they have in Jimmy Garoppolo. And number 2, this team is for real. That New England Patriots team, obviously I knew, of course they're real, but I was like, yeah, they're definitely Super Bowl bound. But at the same time, you realize that you realize that was supposed to be their hardest team they were going to face, and that team only got 7 wins that season. So that's definitely a concern right there. And I think that even though the New England won the Super Bowl last season, you could definitely tell in the Super Bowl against the Atlanta Falcons when they faced a good opponent that they just didn't do so hot, or when they faced the Seahawks, they ended up losing at home in New England. And I just look at that, I just see something right there that their strength of schedule could play a factor. And I think strength of schedule plays more of a factor for a team that don't have that recent history of winning championships. If you win a championship, your strength of schedule doesn't matter. But if you don't win championships, that's a big concern. Now, when it comes to with the New England Patriots, this was the first time the Miami Dolphins did not split with the New England Patriots this year. They usually get a 1-1 record against them. It's usually they get one win at Sun Life Stadium. But apparently, with the year they made the playoffs, they lose to them twice this year. And maybe because the Patriots are just unfairly good right now, but when I look at that, it feels kind of weird that they weren't able to split. So I want to see if they're be able to split. That's kind of one of the losses I'm looking for on the New England Patriots board. If they do lose a game, they would lose to the Miami Dolphins. Alright guys, thanks for watching the video. I'll be making more videos like this, but I'm going to be on vacation for the past couple of days, so I'm not going to be able to make a video soon. So, see ya.